Apparently, my town has a vanishing Buddhist temple. I was unaware. But in my defense, it vanishes, right? Which makes it very easy to be unaware of. Probably the whole point of the vanishing, if I had to guess. But I learned about it anyway from a friend the other day. And then it was confirmed by multiple relatives. So it's definitely there. And I checked on Google Maps and it's there too. I mean, I don't know if it's on Google Maps when it vanishes, but when I checked, it was there. So here's the reality of the situation. There's a road to nowhere in my town that's inexplicably well paved and maintained. And when I was a teenager, this was the road that you used to drive down to smoke weed on when nobody had an apartment, but everybody had a car, right? You could consistently drive 10, 12 miles down that road, 10, 12 miles back without passing a single house or business or pedestrian or vehicle. There's nothing out on that road. Well, at some point in the relatively recent past, somebody bought some property out on that nowhere-ass road, and they started a Buddhist monastery, which is great. Seems like the right place for it, right? Not a lot of traffic. But since virtually nobody has a reason to drive down that particular road on a regular basis other than smoking weed, I guess, everybody who drives down that road and notices it is like, well, I just appeared out of nowhere. Either they hadn't been there during its construction or they were too stoned and don't remember what they saw last time they were down that road. Now, most of us would have the sense to be like, well, it has been a long time since I drove down this road, and buildings are normally constructed over periods that are smaller than that amount of time. But there's a different average for sense when you're dealing with people who don't have the sense to get the fuck out of Waycross, Georgia. So a lot of people around here see that and they're like, huh, I wonder if they use their Kung Fu Asian powers to teleport that over from China or something. And this is exacerbated if you happen to later drive down that road and not notice the setback in the woods a bit Buddhist temple. Did it teleport back to China? This is how I assume the rumor got started. People who imagine themselves well informed on the goings on in this town just because there are so few goings on in this town can't imagine that something as unusual as the construction of a Buddhist temple could happen without them hearing about it ahead of time. After all, they knew about the new Chipotle opening up by the Kroger months before they even broke ground. So isn't it at least as likely that there's some kind of mystical Buddhist force that shields people from seeing what's going on there? And now it's all over town. I heard about this from a friend, and then I brought it up as a joke to some family members when we were having dinner, and 2 of the 5 of them had heard the story of the disappearing Buddhist temple out on Swamp Road. I even have a friend who swears that he saw it not be there or didn't see it not be there. I guess he drove by when it should have been there and he didn't see it. And when I asked him if it's possible that he just missed it, he gave me an incredulous look and reminded me how distinct this building looks. It would be hard to miss after all. Now, I would argue that nothing is hard to miss when you're not fucking looking at it. And when one drives, one tends to look in front of them, not to the right the whole fucking time. But he assures me that he looked exactly at that time where it was supposed to be and it wasn't there and it disappeared. And of course, I could have pressed him. I could have asked why he didn't get out and walk up to the spot where it should have been to see if there was like a force field there or like a hologram veil, like when you go to Wakanda. I could have asked, I could have bet him an unimaginably high sum of money against lunch tomorrow that when we drove out that road, it would still be in visible mode every single time. I could have, in other words, called him on his bullshit, but that would have been rude. I wouldn't be showing him something he doesn't know, that is that Buddhist temples don't disappear. I would be robbing him of a fantasy that allows him to escape from the doldrums of his shitty fucking town and its paucity of opportunity. It allows him to at least daydream himself into a world where he happens upon some weird mystical ritual that sends him forth on unimaginable adventures. A good friend in his mind, I'd imagine, actually would have yes-anded his bullshit and added some more so that we could both bask in the possibility that the other guy wasn't lying. That being said, it's also crazy racist. And it's the kind of rumor that so often ends with torches and pitchforks and shit. And when taken as a symptom of a larger problem with education and epistemology, it's one of the reasons why this area is so bereft of opportunity. So even if I don't want to rob him of his illusion by arguing with it, I still want to disabuse him of it by fighting against it. It's just really hard when all the people so interested in thinking for themselves are so uninterested in thinking.